Hello, friends, and welcome to yet another episode of Leadership with yet another guest. In this series, we try to bring highly experienced leaders who are achievers themselves and also recognized as leaders in their respective industry. With the changing times, the challenges of leaders also change, and that's what we call as leadership. Through this interview or talk show, we are trying to decode these with the leaders. Today's guest is one of my former colleagues and a friend, Mr. Aniruddha Panchal. Aniruddha Panchal, as I know him, he comes from a very humble background, a background which is not different than a fairy tale. He picked up tutoring the young children in a small village where he lived while he himself was an undergraduate. He went to Regional Engineering College of Surat, and right after completing his engineering in mechanical discipline, he started his professional journey with Atul Limited, one of the largest chemical complexes in the South Gujarat. While playing with machines, he didn't really lose his interest for the people. After about 5 years, the management recognized his interest and he got an opportunity to switch from engineering to HR function. In the process of establishing himself in this new role, he acquired diplomas in human resources management and training and development. Training and people development is his passion, and I have personally witnessed it. He has trained over 500 plus professionals in various subjects at senior level. He has also been a regular invitee to various educational institutes, business schools, charitable organizations such as Rotary Club, and government organizations like Police Force. Later, he worked for Alembic and Transmetal, which firmed up his grip on HR and IR. Currently, he is head with Micro Inks Limited, an ink manufacturing giant, since May 2006, to lead an entire gamut of HR and employee relationship activity, with a special focus on people development. Microinks is now a Huber Group company, which is another German giant. Aniruddha's professional vision is to be a specialist in concept delivery, and his personal mission is to make a positive difference in the lives of people. Aniruddha, thank you so much for being part of this leadership series, and thank you for consenting to have a talk with us. Thank you and welcome.
My pleasure, Biman, and thanks to you to give me this platform. I think it's been really a long time since we interacted intellectually. Yeah. I think this will be a good opportunity to interact. You are no less than me on these philosophical things, so I'm sure it's going to be a good interaction today. Yes.
Right. And I'm also equally looking forward to this discussion. I'm sure it's going to be very exciting, and especially for the young and aspiring HR professionals. So Aniruddha, as I said in your introduction, you began as a junior person in the organization, like everybody does, me too. When did you realize that you are a leader, and how did it really happen to you?
See, if I never realized, that I am a leader, or that I possess those kinds of qualities. But when I look back upon my life, what I see is that I have always been in some or the other leadership position. Whether it was, if I take you back to my school days, I was the house head, then the head boy. Mm-hmm. And I never realized that people gave me this kind of position, primarily because I used to get along well with people. Maybe was able to influence them, take them along, inspire them, and get them to work together. I think that could be the reason why I was always chosen to coordinate and facilitate and these kinds of activity which perhaps all leaders require to do. Mm-hmm. So that is the beginning of
So was it different when you realized that, or whenever that happened to you? Was it different than just managing things?
See, since I saw a lot of success in these terms, right from my school days, even in college, I used to organize many events actually, and what I could realize is I had a good amount of acceptability among my colleagues. Now there are, Bhiman, that everyone has this ego and their own self-image, and many a times it is very likely that these self-images are going to collide and they come into conflict and all that. Right. So somehow I was able to draw a common ground, keeping their images, self-images intact. But there is always a common ground to work on. Mm-hmm. And there's a common purpose, there's a common destiny that everyone wants to go, actually. Mm-hmm. And this is something that a leader is supposed to find out. And then, inspire everyone to work on that. Actually, that does the trick to, take teams further, actually. This is my learning. So when I realized this is the kind of quality within me, I think I started more in terms of capitalizing it in my day-to-day work.
Practicing more and more of it.
Exactly.
Okay. One of the most common and arguably the biggest challenge that the leaders face is to really inspire people to take actions, because that's one of
Yeah.
the major challenge. Along with that, aligning multiple groups, and this is even more challenging for someone who is wearing a cape of head of HR now. What's your take on this? And tell us, how have you managed it so far, and how are you managing it now?
Now, I think it's a very interesting question. In fact, your question prompted me to think on
Yeah, no problem.
something. श्याम फोन मुड़ी गया and you edit करना है.
Yeah.
Okay. Your question actually prompted me to think on this particular subject. That giving a common goal, common target is nothing new actually. In spite of when people have this common target, common thing to work on, why the teams fall apart? Why there is competition within? And that's where I realized that there is something more to it. There's some binding material that has to be there, which would keep teams together, which would make the teams work towards a common thing. And that is something that I found was the aspect of core values. So when a leader establishes, okay, fine, we as a team are going to work on a common kind of a target. At the same time, we will do that, but with this set of common values. When people agree on to the values, it is very difficult for them to deviate after that. For example, that mutual respect is something, a value that we agree upon. And we brainstorm and we identify why we need to do this, and then once we agree, then what happens is whenever there's an issue of conflict or difference of opinion, when you say, okay, are we practicing mutual respect, is one question that is to be asked. And I think people slowly feel yes. I think whoever is maybe falling short would catch up with that particular value, and things start moving further. Even today, today's the whole concept of HR head and HR department is slowly getting diluted. And a new concept of HR committees is coming up. Now, what is this HR committee? See, if you look at human resource function is everyone's function. Like I remember in the old days when I was sent to Accelerate to take some additional training on HR because I was just an engineer. There was no knowledge on HR. There I found almost everyone was from a non-HR background. Somebody was a PhD, somebody was a project head, things like that. So they were there, and I realized that when these people can do this kind of functions, there is something in us that is taking us to do a job like HR. So even today, if you look at the plant level people, the unit heads, the plant in charges, they are practicing more of human resource management. May not be development, but at least they are all in all doing the human resource management day in and day out. And the real pains are known to them more than the HR head or maybe the core HR team.
Right.
Now, when you talk of the subject of development, it comes, a lot of things have been drawn from the theory, from the domain of knowledge, and that is tried and applied into the real life situation. And when it works, it becomes the knowledge for the whole organization. So when you talk of human resource management, it is the plant people who practice human resource management, and therefore, in the times to come, you will see many companies will have site-based human resource committees who will decide the policies which are conducive to their working. Any HR policy should help the employee to work and not hinder. You understand? Human resource manager's job is to see that what are those things which are. I'll give a classic example. Like we have the sales people who are going to go, who keep visiting the customers and all. Now we have a policy of fuel reimbursement.
Okay.
The policy says that in a month you will be reimbursed 12,000 rupees. So, but I had an objection to it. I said, if you say so that whether you visit or not, you'll get 12,000 rupees. People are going to save money. Instead, keep it open. Reimburse as much as you want to the extent they visit the customers.
Okay.
So reimburse at actuals. Now this will not only this will inspire them to meet customers more often. And the only thing which a sales head has to do is to make sure that these meetings are fruitful or not. That's it.
Right.
and the whole, the job of sales can be set to roll faster. Otherwise, this is more of it's a allowance, and people will naturally save on them. That's a very natural tendency. That if I can get a work done over phone, why should I go visit and spend my petrol, which is going to go out of that 12,000 rupees that are going to be paid to me anyway. You understand? So this is a simple understanding of the pain at the shop floor, which is well understood by the plant people. So no sooner, you'll see that there will be plant level committee, and HR heads will be more of facilitators to, make sure that various sites are in sync. And if there are differences, he will be the person who will create a common thread among all the sites and a common policy for the organization. But the roots are certainly going to be at the plant level.
Some of the things that you mentioned, when you shared your experience when you met with some of the people at Accelerate, it reminds me of my corporate days. While growing up as a manager, or so to speak, as a leader, I could see that there are a lot of people who are actually, doing a lot of work related to HR activity, related to people. But at the same time, a whole lot of people were, very much busy and kind of obsessed about controlling things, controlling almost about everything. This, of course, is not an acceptable style, and at the end of the day, it falls apart anyways. So, what would be your advice to those budding managers?
Controlling is the word which is, which is the outspring of the self-image and the ego which a person carries. Let's say if a person is, I am head HR, so people should, obey me.
Yeah.
That's, I think it's a very old idea these days, actually.
Yeah.
And in fact, I have taken the most of the hit on this account. It's like I would like to confess that I had this big ego and big self-image, and we got crushed in the, last rather I would say 5 to 6 years. And I realized this is not the way, the things work in any organization. Everyone has their own self-image, and we need to respect that. So the key word today is inspire, influence, do something that my idea becomes their idea, and they implement as if it was their own idea. Understand? So it is more of inspiration that you need to, transmit, or the influence that you need to induce among people. And it's like more of a typical a person who is leading a missionary organization. You understand? They have a very good cause to follow. They inspire people. Yes, this is a very good job to be done. It is going to benefit all. And if we all get together and do this, there will be a lot of prosperity. I'm talking in very generic sense.
Yeah.
But if you can bring about this kind of a thing, you did not control. You are actually inspiring, but you are still making sure that people are working within their boundaries.
Yeah.
You don't need to practically use the word control.
Yeah, absolutely. And my own understanding over the years is that, those who really control and continue to, be with that style are actually the managers, and those who actually influence are the leaders. So when it comes to influencing people, which requires constant motivation, inspiration, like you said, or even leading by examples at times, this is supposed to be an everyday job for the leader. How you as a leader would deal with this tough task on an everyday basis? Does it come as a burden or a stress to you, or it just happens naturally?
It happens natural because way back in year 2000, I attempted doing one course. In those days, it was named Energo Cybernetic Strategy. And still remember one very good statement, that if you want to do something good, you will have a few, oppositions, but you will have a huge number of following. You understand? So it means if you want to do something good, you will certainly have a number of followers. And the basic nature of any human being is that they love doing certain good things. Okay, if a man, just helps a blind man to cross a road, I'm sure he is going to, as soon as he meet his friend, he'll say, then I did this today. So much pride is being taken in such a simple job. Similarly, so there are certain rules, the basic underlying rules of human psychology.
Or the facets of human psychology. Yeah.
Facets. Yeah, everyone likes to do good things. Everyone yearns to achieve in terms of superordinate goals, meaning that I'm not just a shift chemist. I'm actually a very important contributor towards the quality of the product. Understand?
Right.
Therefore, everyone wishes to take pride in what they do. Everyone wants to contribute. Okay. And the most important thing is, therefore, we just need to make them feel worthwhile in whatever they are doing. In my initial years at Huber Group, I did one program which was titled A Day with Myself. One of the most important session and most liked session in this whole one-day program was the purpose of the job session, where we identify the purpose of the job. And the outcome of this is why I am in this organization, or how do I influence the ultimate result of the organization. Once a person gets to know that, he actually doesn't need motivation from anywhere else.
True.
It's like kindling the fire within. So a person may leave an organization, work in another organization, but that fire will continue to burn.
Right.
So wherever the person is, he or she will continue to perform because the person knows what his or her contribution is to the organization. So that's the key thing.
Right. Now you actually stole my next question. I was about to ask you how an individual contribution, on one hand, there is an individual contribution, somebody working on the shop floor, or chemist is doing something in the lab, or maybe even the peon, who is working, somewhere doing all kinds of things. And then there is, on the other hand, there is a vision of the company. How do you establish that line of sight between individual contribution and to that, very much complicated looking vision statement?
It's like, I'll give an example that one of the punchline or slogans that our company has is providing today's printers with tomorrow's solutions.
Wow.
Okay. Now, whenever let's take an example of a receptionist. Okay. When I discuss, most of the times people don't discuss such things with the people at the low levels, actually, which is very important. The receptionist is actually the most important person in an organization after the managing director. She is the person who is picking the calls of the customers. She is picking the call of the vendors. She is actually setting the tone in their minds. Okay, what kind of this organization is, the way he or she talks.
How do you make them feel? Sorry to interrupt you. How do you make them feel or make them realize that this is how important their job or contribution is?
Yeah. So I'm coming to that. When I say, when I discuss that, see, our company's vision is this, and you are the most important person after MD. Okay, though the job is not a very highly skilled job, but in terms of making relationship, in terms of how you project the image of the company, you are a very, very important person. And therefore, you need to take care of certain things, how you treat, how you pick the phone, how you transfer the phone, how you talk to the person or how you talk to an irate customer. Recently, in one of the meetings, where, it happened that with the managing director, it happened that the receptionist was also there. And she very sweetly, when the managing director asked her that, you might be getting all sorts of calls. So she very sweetly said, yes, I do get a lot of calls. Sometimes, people shout on me, but, I absorb it and don't let it, go further. Now, see, if a person is, aware to this level, I think we are having an asset. We are having an asset in the order. And when we work with them, see, this is the importance of the job. And therefore, they realize and they rise to the occasion. Yes, this is my role.
Right. And this is the difference that they are making.
Yeah.
Right. One of the things, which we always talk about leadership is, is their communication skills. So with regards to communication aspects of any leader, there are situations which requires every leader to be an excellent communicator, especially in the situation when they need to criticize, when they need to confronting people or building consensus. What has been your recipe in a situation like this?
Biman, I've always found that criticism is killing people, actually. I term it as emotional punishment. To criticize is to emotionally punish. It's not that I am also tempted many a times, to criticize very acutely, but it doesn't give me anything. It only creates a further dent in the dyadic relationship we have with various colleagues. What is important is that as in the lean and all, there are leading, lagging indicators and all that. So firstly, even before certain damages are done, one should have thorough discussion how the things are required to be performed. If they do that, there will be hardly any chance to criticize. But let's say something goes wrong. A simple discussion on how could it have been done better would make the person realize subtly that there was something wrong that I did. In the next instance, I have to improve. You don't need to criticize. You just need to draw out ideas from the same person in terms of how could it have been done better. That is it. Such discussions are very, very important. Now, it's like, how do we keep improving our colleagues on a continual way, day in and day out in the organization? I'll give an example. Initially, the amount of time taken for gate entry was around 10 minutes. The person will come and he'll be taken to the security. Security will call the person inside. Now we establish as if anybody is coming, there is a phone call to the security, so they know the name. Okay, so basic data is filled in. The moment the person comes, photograph is taken, and the whole process is smooth. It gets over in less than 2 minutes.
Wow.
Now there is a further idea. They said, okay, why don't we ask for a copy of the Aadhaar card even before they come? These are very handy things. They can just WhatsApp the Aadhaar card. And when they come at the gate pass is ready. They just have to walk in the organization. That's it. Just check the face, is the same face or not. And they just walk in. So there are lots of, innovative things that can be done. Okay. In terms of improvement in the context that we are talking of.
Okay. My next question is about leadership development, and there are lots of organizations which I have seen who are putting their people onto.
Sorry, Bhivan, I think I missed to mention one more thing. I think you asked me what is my recipe.
Yeah,
that is also something you asked. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, over these years, I have come to find that most of the organizations lack in assertiveness. Like each and every person should be bold enough, confident enough to stand for what is right, without fear, to be able to communicate in a very simple, humble, understandable manner, not get offended, and yet make sure that the message is conveyed in a proper way. And I read in some book, which I would like to mention over here for the benefit of all, that I call it a DESO script, DESO. It's like, first you describe what is happening. For example, if somebody, let's say I was a very egoistic HR head and somebody wanted to tell me how the gate entry process can be made faster. Now, how would I want that person to communicate to me in a DESO script is, first the person should come to me and describe, okay, sir, currently, sometimes it takes more, around 20 minutes for a person to be let in. And it actually, it is a very, very cumbersome process. Then the second D, then E. Okay, express how this makes him feel. So when I see that people are waiting at the gate and they are looking here and there, I feel so bad about my organization that what could they be thinking about us? So that is the expression how I feel about it. Then you have S, which is you specify what you want. So you say, sir, if somehow by introducing this Aadhaar card, if you can reduce the incoming time, and then O, outcome, I think our company would be one of the very few companies who would have a incoming gate entry system which could be less than a minute. So this is the script which one has to master over a period of time, but I think it is a success script.
Wow, no.
It's not my script, but I have also taken it from somewhere actually. So describe, express how you feel, specify what you want, and if you get that, what is the outcome? And that outcome should be mutually, beneficial, not only one side.
So it's kind of, people bringing the problem. Of course, they are most welcome to, to talk about the problem, express about the problem. But in the process of this DESO script, following this DESO script, they'll eventually end up finding the solution also.
Exactly.
Because they themselves are going to describe what the outcome should be. Wonderful.
It's something that it's like calling a shot in a very soft way.
Right.
But the most important thing is it's like in the whole process, we are not communicating left brain to left brain. Actually, the whole process is right brain to right brain. It is the feeling that is communicating.
Right.
And even you will agree with me that more than the logic in organizations, the feelings, matching of the feelings work a lot, whether we agree or not, actually.
Yeah.
Even in a highly logical database meeting, somewhere or other, somebody will say, but I feel, and then the rest of the statement.
Right. Wonderful.
That's
I think,
there.
this is something new that I have learned today.
Exactly.
So, Aniruddha, the next question is, related to leadership development program. Even I also conduct, some of the programs with, some reputed organizations. It has kind of become a fashion. It is also one of the needs. Nothing wrong with it. But in a country, like us, which is growth hungry, the kind of economy that we are, people are always looking for growth. Nobody wants to settle down at just one position for years together. So what has happened, and probably, it is also a compulsion of an organization where they have started building up a lot of, complicated hierarchy. More than complicated hierarchy, there are too many steps. So somebody is manager, senior manager, and senior manager
Very
there is
layered.
2 levels, and multi-layered. So in this process, of course, this is also need of a society, because somebody would like to say that I'm, manager in Falana company. So that's a matter of pride. Nothing wrong with it. But in the process, I think, this leadership aspect is missing. People have turned into managers. So when these things are happening, around us, what would be your advice to those organizations to, systematically change and move people towards more of leadership than anything else?
And I think, leadership in the way you describe is a value, and the values are always inculcated top down.
Okay.
So it's like, the very renowned, or rather most narrated story of Gandhiji. Somebody, mother goes with the child and asks Gandhiji to tell the child that, please ask him to stop eating jaggery.
Yeah.
And Gandhiji says, okay, come after 15 days.
Are you there?
And after 15 days, he only started eating jaggery and understood what is to stop eating jaggery. And then I, told, so it's going to affect more.
Right.
So even in organization, as you said, where people are assuming the role of managers, the missing link is the essence, I would say, essence of leadership. And one of the litmus tests to check whether you are a leader or not, it will be very interesting for you. When people below you want to imitate you, or they enjoy imitating you on certain things, I think you are already a leader. You should feel that, yes, you have been a leader. And that's the only reason why people want to imitate you. People come, so, you're so good at time management, you're so good at talking to people, I would like to be there. This is a litmus test where you have demonstrated it. And leadership has, if I were to say one word, it is all value, and values. Like, a leader cannot be a person who doesn't practice certain values. And it comes from within. And then once a leader practices this value, there is an aura around that person, which actually influences the other guys.
Very true.
Like, yeah. I think you will agree that there are many people, who are around us. Just by sitting next to the person, we feel good, we feel inspired, we feel as if we want to sit next to this person on and on.
Yeah.
It's their aura which is influencing us.
All your stress is gone. You suddenly start finding the solutions.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's the leadership. Leader doesn't need a title. Leader actually doesn't need a title. I have seen many teams where the manager is sitting quietly and a small guy is actually conducting the whole meeting. Why? Because he has some good substance to speak on. He has done good amount of research in the topic. Or he has, associated himself and attached himself so much that whatever he speaks is touching everyone in the meeting. So subtly, that person is actually doing the role of a leader, and not the actual department head. So to be a leader, you don't need a title. That is what that's in nutshell, which I would like to say.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the title, rank, position, title, everything will follow.
Yeah.
All right. So next question is connected, sort of. But before I, fire that question at you, Aniruddha, like you also, I also had a, kind of a people angle. Of course, like you, I didn't have courage to switch my career from, engineering to HR at that point of time.
So you already have done it now.
Yeah, in a way, yes. So, but I keep doing this, in a different way. I'm quite active on social media. So recently, I conducted a survey on LinkedIn, and the question
Mhm.
that I asked on that survey was, what is the biggest challenge in your organization when it comes to leadership development? So the results, and the options which I had given, of course, people followed that, but I'll just share the results with you. People, 18% people chose that, when it comes to challenges related to leadership development program, 18% people responded availability of all the leaders at once, or all the people at once. 43% said there is a lack of clarity. 25% said there is an in-house capability to conduct, and 14% shy away because of lack of budget or lack of management support. What are your thoughts on to this? Do you experience the same?
Uh, when you were narrating this question, one word came to my mind. See, today's challenge, the real challenge is how do you get people to collaborate?
Mm-hmm.
How do you get people to work for each other? How
Mm-hmm.
do you get people to enjoy each other's success? These are easy said, easy to be said. Then, okay. So collaboration is the word which most of the organizers struggle with in
Mm-hmm.
terms of leadership. So
Mm-hmm.
when you say availability of all leaders at a time, actually they are speaking of their willingness to be there.
Mm.
It's like everyone has the same time. It's all about the priorities,
Yeah.
right?
And
So
ability to manage the priorities.
if I give a priority to certain aspect, then I am available.
Mm-hmm.
If I am not available, I am sure I am not given priority to that, or I have given priority to something else over that.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So it boils down to priority. It boils down to that willingness to contribute towards the organization, towards the success of the organization. Whether that leader is thinking about himself or the other rest of the people who are earning their daily bread and butter, in the who are coming daily in the organization, who don't, some people who don't even know they would have a job next day or what they would
Mm-hmm.
eat next day. It is that worry about those people that actually sets the tone, and this is something that is actually missing in the organization. This is my experience. So
Mm-hmm.
many a times I tell that can we all leaders get together once in a month and solve only one problem?
Mm.
Okay, I think in a year you will be solving 12 big problems.
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
you keep doing that, all throughout, just imagine. I think I still remember your experience of staying with Bharat Bhai.
Yeah.
Remember
Yeah.
together, and you told you were not getting along well with him,
Yeah.
right? But when you stayed with him for some days, the whole chemistry changed,
Yeah. And we are the
and
best
this
friends
is
today.
exactly, and this is what is lacking. People don't get together. People don't sit together. People don't fight together,
Mm.
and therefore they have all created walls around them, and which actually eliminates collaboration.
Right.
Everyone wants to work in their own silos, but if you get people to collaborate, if you get people to work, you take any revolutionary movement,
Mm-hmm.
and if the common thread that goes around in that revolutionary movement, whether it is our struggle for freedom or agricultural revolution or any other revolution, they have a common purpose. They have a bigger purpose of service to humanity. The larger purposes are there. I
Yeah.
think we also need the same thing in organizations like us,
Mm-hmm.
which will help people to collaborate, work for each other.
Very
And
true.
Indians, I'll tell you, they work the best in crisis time. So if there is no crisis, create one.
Right. Aniruddha, my last question is about my favorite aspect or attribute related to leadership, and that's about courage. I personally
Mhm.
have demonstrated it at times. But I would like to quote Winston Churchill here, because he gave a fantastic quote. So, he said, "The courage is to stand up for what is right and not for what is convenient." In my experience, when you stand up for right, invariably you will end up disappointing too many people. What has been your experience on this? Did you take any decision where kind of a courageous or a bold decision, but you ended up disappointing a lot of stakeholders?
There are many occasions.
I'm
I'll
sure.
tell you, many occasions.
I'm sure.
I think the key thing over here is that people feel that, to be flexible, to be accommodating, or to be adaptive is to bend ways. And my thought is, don't bend ways, because actually, that is killing your self-image. It's making you behave against your core values.
True.
You mend ways. You need to mend ways, not bend ways. You understand? You need to mend ways. So there have been numerous occasions where I have one common occasion which in all the organization which I have stood against the management is to safeguard the integrity of a policy. The seniors make policy and then they work to tweak it. They will create a work around it. The whole process kills the very essence of having a common policy, and there is a feeling in the people that these are just in books. They actually don't want to implement them. There will be apathy. A small single thing will create huge amount of negativity in the organization. But policies, if they are implemented in letter and spirit, I think that will bring about a lot of loyalty from the organization. And since I've been standing up for the integrity of ensuring the policies are implemented, I have made too many, I upsetted many people at the senior levels. But at the same time, I enjoy huge friendship from the rest of them.
Wow, that's the hallmark of a true leader. Aniruddha, thank you so much for this very, very insightful talk with me today. I think, if I were to just, count a few of the key takeaways, DESO Script, comes the first in my mind, because this is something that I have, heard for the first time. You also were very articulate on several leadership facets like, influence, collaboration, courage. So I think that was really, really, I kind of, got a completely different perspective. So thank you so much for that. Your 30 plus years of experience was quite evident here. And I'm sure, like I said in the beginning, it's going to be quite an useful talk for all those who are young and aspiring HR professionals. And of course, the leaders in the making. Thank you so much, Aniruddha. It was
Thanks,
pleasure
to give this opportunity to even speak my heart out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye for now.